Radio IKIM Inspirasi Infora Islami. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good afternoon to DJ listeners of IKIM FM. Welcome to another episode of Shaping Tomorrow, and I'm your host Batrisyia Afrina, and for today listeners we are going to talk about lessons from Uzbekistan's Islamic legacy, and as usual I have my panel for today, Dr. Muhammad Syafiq Borhannuddin. He is a fellow at the Center for Economics and Social Studies IKIM. Assalamualaikum, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, Batrisyia.
It's nice to have you here for today.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
Mm-hmm. And Doctor, a few weeks ago, you had the opportunity to go to Uzbekistan. So, dear listeners, Uzbekistan, for your information, is a Central Asian nation and former Soviet republic. It is renowned for its mosques, mausoleums, and historic sites that is connected to the Silk Road. And Doctor, can you share with us what have you learned from your recent trips to Uzbekistan?
Sure, Patricia. Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before I continue, I would just like to give a background note, a background statement to say that this recent trip that the delegation of the Institute of Islamic Understanding Malaysia, IKIM, had was due to a memorandum of understanding and MOU that IKIM signed with three Islamic institutions in Uzbekistan. Two of them are in Tashkent, one of them in Samarkand. This MOU was thanks to the initiative of the former presidential advisor of Uzbekistan, who has since passed away, who met our late chairman, Allahyarham Tun Ahmad Sarji, in the KL summit several years ago. So that's the background in terms of how IKIM started to work with partners, institutional partners in Uzbekistan. And in addition, we would like to acknowledge the great help that the Embassy of Uzbekistan in Kuala Lumpur has given us to facilitate this collaboration and even to the trip, for this particular trip that we just had in recent weeks. So what I intend to share for this particular episode is not an exhaustive treatment or presentation of the Islamic legacy in Uzbekistan, which is vast and tremendous for those who are not familiar, because actually many of the great scholars, many of the great ulama, scientists, philosophers of the past, they were actually from this land, from present day we call Uzbekistan, but in the past they were known as many names, among them as Khorasan. The spread of Islam in Central Asia generally, or in Uzbekistan specifically, started on very early in the earliest stage of the emergence of Islam. We know, for example, that by the 7th century, a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and also a Sahaba, of course, Qutham ibn Abbas, he was part of an Arab expedition to spread Islam in Central Asia. And to this day, the makam, the tomb of Qutham ibn Abbas, can be found in Samarkand, which we were able to visit, alhamdulillah. And so basically it's been preserved for more than 1,000 years, this particular makam of Qutham ibn Abbas. Then subsequently, over the centuries since then, many great scholars have emerged in Central Asia, and specifically in Uzbekistan. Like everyone may have heard the name of Imam al-Bukhari, right? Every time we hear a hadith, it's often quoted from Imam al-Bukhari's books. So Imam Bukhari actually is from Uzbekistan. The name Bukhari is basically referring to the place he's from in Uzbekistan, called Bukhara.
Bukhara.
Yeah, his real name is not Bukhari. His real name is Imam Muhammad, I think, bin Ismail, if I'm not mistaken. Al-Bukhari is because those days Muslims used to put the name of the place they are from in their names. So that's the practice, right? So Imam
Interesting.
Bukhari, yeah. So Imam Bukhari is actually from Bukhara in Uzbekistan, one of the
Mm-hmm.
most ancient cities in Uzbekistan. So Imam Bukhari played a great role, of course, and the scholars in his time and before that. And then there's also another scholar, famous scholar in the Muslim world called Imam Al Maturidi, who's also um, uh, whose makam can today still be found in Samarkand, which we visited. Alhamdulillah, Imam Maturidi is a famous scholar of theology, of Aqidah. When we speak of Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the majority, the mainstream Muslim teachings, a lot of their Aqidah were sort of the writings of the scholar that they chiefly refer to, among others, is Imam Maturidi and Imam Al Ash'ari. So Imam Maturidi also from Samarkand, and we were told by the local custodian of the makam that Imam Maturidi, in fact, never left. One of those scholars who have rarely gone out of Uzbekistan to study, because there was, we suppose, because there were many scholars, and he was able to read the great books of Islam in Uzbekistan about 1,000 years ago. And then subsequently, there were figures like Abu Bakr Kafal al-Shashi, who may not be so known, but he played a major role in the spread of Islam, in the Islamization of that land. We visited his tomb also in Tashkent. He was. We read somewhere that he was sent by the Abbasid Empire's political authority. And then there's and last figure I would like to share in this particular um, sort of slide is that there is a very famous figure called Ahmad Yasavi. He's very famous among the Turkic community, because the Uzbeks, actually, they are part of a broader Turkish or Turkic people. So they have similar roots to to Turkish people, similar roots to Kazakhstan, they similar roots to all those stans in Central Asia, including Uyghur, which is not part of China today. So they all
Mm-hmm.
spoke the same similar language, which is Turkic, Arabo-Turkic, mix sort of thing. So Ahmad Yasavi was such a famous figure that he continues to be known by the people in Turkey today, the religious people in Turkey today, because he wrote in a very simple way. He just wrote like poetry, but his influence is so immense. He sort of uh, influenced the hearts and the minds of Muslims for centuries. So in the map that I'm sharing on the video here, for those of you who are tuning on our video on our social media, that I'm sharing a slide as well. You can see that although this map is quite small, the territory of when Muslims embrace when the Uzbeks or people in Central Asia embraced Islam, eventually the territory became very big. It became an empire on its own. There was a Muslim empire in pre before Uzbekistan was established in the modern times in 20th century, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
empire was called the Timurid Empire. I will tell more about why they call it the Timurid Empire. But this empire was so huge, it was recognized by the Ming Dynasty of China, the one of the great Chinese dynasty, 500-600 years ago, and so much so that Ming Dynasty would try to build relations, diplomatic relations with this Muslim empire in Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how huge or established it was. So this is I'm going to go through like some figures and some great contributions, not only in terms of the individual scholars, but also in terms of civilizational contributions, because when Muslims in Uzbekistan before sort of spread Islam, they did not only have like a very personalized ritual life, they also built or established a civilization, because that's just how Muslims operate wherever they go when they spread Islam in the past. They built cities, they built trade, they built a governance system, they built a whole civilization, and made it better than whatever was there before Islam, right?
Mhm.
So Ahmad Yasavi, this the picture I'm sharing in our video is the picture below is his tomb, his makam. He continues to be preserved, although he died 1166, which is about 1,000 years ago, more or less.
Yes.
His tomb is still being preserved because people respect him so much. You see,
Mhm.
and it's huge. It's a very big place for just one man.
Is it
His
just
tomb
for one maybe like it's not
is
part
just
of a
one man.
mosque or something?
No, it's not a mosque. It's just a tomb.
But it looked like a mosque, a very big mosque.
Exactly. That's the adab or the respect that these people have to scholars. Especially
Mhm.
those who contributed a lot to their understanding of Islam. This Yasawi was famous for his writing is called Diwan al Hikmat, or Compendium of Wisdom. So basically, he taught wisdom about Islam, about life, to generations of Muslims there. And then and then there's another prominent figure in the history of Islam in Uzbekistan. His name is Amir Timur. Amir is not his real name. Amir is a title, like a political authority, like Amirul Mukminin, right? His
Mhm.
real name is Timur. Timur,
Oh,
in Bahasa Melayu, we use it to refer to a geographical direction, east, right?
to the
It's like
east.
east. But in their language, Timur means iron, like iron.
Iron.
Yeah, like very
Oh.
strong.
So it
So
represents his personality, perhaps?
I don't know that one. I did not look into why he was given that name. But he
Mhm.
is like that, an iron fist leader, very firm, very strong, and the people were even Muslims feared him because he's very vicious, very aggressive as a leader.
Mm.
But then he also respects scholars. One of his famous saying is, "Power is injustice." He does not understand power or politics in the Machiavellian sense. All about getting more and more power. But for him, having power is about having justice and spreading justice and establishing justice. But what he
Mhm.
means by justice not only about in the legal sense, meaning you have a legal system, a court, make sure you punish anyone who is
Doing
disobedient.
wrong.
But what he means by justice is deeper than that. Like how many great Muslims understand him. Justice means to give people their due, to respect people where they need it to be respect, especially the scholars and noble people in your community. So, like this statement by Ibn Arab Shah, one of the eyewitness who lived during Amir Timur's time, which is Amir Timur lived about 700 years ago. But today he's a national hero in Uzbekistan. He has three great statues all around Uzbekistan of Amir Timur. He's like a national icon. So if you go
Mhm.
to Uzbekistan, make sure you say good things about Amir Timur, and everyone will love you for that.
I see.
Right? And Ami Timur not only respected scholars, he respected professionals and craftsmen, people who make art, people who make carpets, people who make buildings. He loved them and he took care of them and he patronized them.
Mhm.
And there is another eyewitness. Also, basically, this is the book by that eyewitness, Ibn Arab Shah. Basically, the life of Timur is written by him 700 years ago, and it's been
Mhm.
translated into Latin, into English 100 years ago, into Latin 600 years ago. So even the Westerners are interested to learn about him because he's such a fascinating figure.
Mhm.
And then let me see what tomb is this. Okay, I
Is it
can't
this
remember.
too?
Okay, so this one is Timur's castle palace, right? Uh,
Oh.
a lot of it has been destroyed, but you can see the scale of it. You can see some small people down there, but you can see the
Mhm.
size of it. And this is 700 years ago, Patricia. They were able to build stuff like this, and it continues to stand. This structure continues to stand.
For
Although,
100 years.
yeah, 700 years. Although
Mhm.
many of their buildings over the years it
Mhm.
was destroyed because in the 20th century they had huge earthquake, right, which killed millions of people. But
Mhm.
some of these buildings, a number of their buildings, continue to stand tall, and the current Uzbekistan government they continue to restore and preserve them to make sure that people can still see this great Islamic legacy of theirs.
Mhm.
This, what do you think this is, Patricia?
I think it's a mosque. It looked like a mosque.
This one is a mosque. You're right. This is one of the great mosques in Samarkand. Okay, if anyone of you thinking of going to Uzbekistan, you must not miss Samarkand, because Samarkand is one of the great Islamic cities in world history. Many great
Mm,
travelers from all around the world would come to Samarkand and extol its beauty, its magnificence. Like even the likes of Marco Polo, the traveler, he used to go to
uh-huh.
Samarkand and he said great things about it. And Ibn Battuta, the great Muslim traveler, he's been to Samarkand, and many people have visited places this Samarkand over the years, because this is where Amir Timur, that great leader that I was telling you about, he made it like his headquarters, the city center. This is Samarkand at one time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Samarkand is where you can see many magnificent buildings, and this building is dedicated to Amir Timur's wife, who's from China, Bibi Khanum. So
Oh,
he's a quite a romantic. So he so he created this magnificent mosque structure building for his wife.
it's like the version of Taj Mahal.
Yes, in fact, the Taj Mahal, they learn it from him, because he's the great great grandfather of the Muslims who created the Taj Mahal.
Oh, this is very
Yeah,
interesting. I never know that before.
exactly. Not many people know that.
Ah,
Because the Taj Mahal, they are called during the Mughal Empire, Muslims in India. But
mm-hmm.
Muslims in India came later. They are basically descendants of Amir Timur, those who
I
created those
see.
beautiful buildings in India, like Taj Mahal, right?
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see the influence like, in terms of the architecture and even the design. It
yeah.
looks like it has some sort of like similarity in there.
Similarity, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for those of you who are interested to know the achievements of Muslims like Amir Timur in the past, there's also when Amir Timur was alive, there was even an ambassador from Spain who lived in Samarkand to witness Amir Timur's leadership. So this book
Mm-hmm.
has been translated, I think, into English even, and but originally it was written in Spanish. And this book is still it's like a diary of this Spanish ambassador who lived in Samarkand during Amir Timur's time. So he mentioned many things about the beauty of the buildings, the culture, the very civilized Muslims who were living there, and a fantastic environment. Basically, he was saying. Of course, when Amir Timur's tomb also is can be found in present day Uzbekistan. And this is basically they call it Gurmir or
Urmir.
Gurmir, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the again. This is not a masjid. At one time, they had a madrasa. It's a complex, right? Usually, this in the past, what they had is not just a tomb, a makam, or a masjid. They had a madrasa. They had a hotel, like a lodge. They call it you know, and
Lot.
they had a garden. It's a beautiful concept, a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
complex. But this Gurumir, interesting story about this is that when Amir Timur died, many people thought, because at one point he even had war campaigns against Muslims. This Amir Timur, against the Turks, against some Muslims in different parts of the world. So until today, some Muslims in some parts of the world do not particularly find Amir Timur a leader that they agree with.
Oh,
You see,
so,
because
uh, so you say he was not a Muslim.
he was a Muslim,
He was
but
a Muslim.
he, for some reason, he had military campaigns against other Muslims
Ah,
because of differences, right? Uh,
mm-hmm.
but interestingly, despite all the shortcomings and that Amir Timur has, he respects the ulama very much. So much
Mm-hmm.
so, in this tomb, in this makam of Amir Timur, this picture that I'm showing here down here is actually not Amir Timur's makam.
Oh,
It's the makam of his teacher, which is much more beautiful than his own makam. And his
it's a bit
teacher
more complex.
it's basically, if you can see in that picture, there's a black sort of wooden sort of a structure right underneath, like right at the feet of this sort of marble makam. That one
Yes,
is
yes.
Ametimos one, like a black color, right? So
Oh.
basically, at the feet of this scholar's makam is Ametimos makam. So what he wanted to show is that he please put me beneath my grave when I die one day. Please put me beneath the grave of my teacher, because that's how much he respect and love his teacher. The name of his teacher is Sayyid Barakat, right? And this figure is quite known. It's not a fictitious figure. It's known in the history of Muslims in Uzbekistan. So so that's the thing about when you go to places like this, Patricia. You observe their culture, their civilization, their sense of respect for scholars, for others, for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that until today. It really affects you. It's like, wow, this guy, he really does that to that extent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of those things that is very interesting when you visit these places. And then interestingly, um, the dynasty of the Muslims, or the kingdom or the empire of the Muslims, when they were doing very well in the history of Uzbekistan in the past, um, like for those who study like Islamic studies, they would the name Sharif al-Jurjani is very famous because he wrote many important books, like he wrote like books on even like a dictionary which was so influential. But not many people know, actually. Scholars like Sharif al-Jurjani actually worked in Samarkand for the best part of his career. He spent 20 years in Samarkand. Because usually when we say the great scholars, great ulama of the past, people often think they are Arabs. They are either in
Yes.
Baghdad, they are in Mecca or Medina. But no, actually, there are many, many great Muslim scholars that the Arabs are still learning from today, who are actually based in Central Asia, Uzbekistan. So
Mm.
Sharif Jurjani is a case in point, and this is his manuscript, right? Very influential book. And then there are also great scholars who are spiritual masters, right? They know about the inner dimension of Islam, and they write beautiful poetries. They teach spiritual lessons about how to purify the soul. And like those who study the Muslim scholarship or Muslim uh, tradition of learning, they will know the name of Abdurrahman Jami. And but then I don't know how many people know that Abdurrahman Jami actually lived in Samarkand for 16 years when he was the age of 23 to 39. Abdurrahman Jami is a hugely influential uh, poet, philosopher, scholar, thinker, and and like scholars from the Arab world, from the Turkish world, including the Malay world centuries
Yes.
ago, they all know Ajami, and they refer to his writing, right? And
Yes.
he was actually based in Samarkand. Why we have
Mm.
all these great scholars? Because they were beautiful madrasa, beautiful higher learning institution, beautiful universities. In those days, a madrasa is almost like a university. It's not like today's Tafi school. A madrasa
Mm-hmm.
is like an elite academy. It's a prestigious academy. This is what a madrasa
High
is.
education.
Yeah, so that this
Mm-hmm.
picture on the below there, that is one example of one of the madrasa in Samarkand, where the likes of Jami worked. It's a beautiful place. It's a prestigious place. It has a courtyard. It has a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful calligraphy on the building. Beautiful tiles, colored blue color, green color, as you can see.
Yes.
And they have great investments by the sultan, by the ruler of that time.
Mm.
And not only that, the scholars in those days, in like in the golden age of Samarkand, for instance, they also created an astronomical observatory where they examine where they did scientific and astronomical research to study
Mm-hmm.
the stars, the universe, the physical universe, the cosmology. So at one time in the Muslim world, Samarkand had the biggest astronomical observatory in the Muslim world. And this is a picture of how it was. It was the biggest in the Muslim world. And this painting is actually how the environment was on the right one of the great scholars who created this observatory was called Ulugh Beg. His name is, and he
Mhm.
was he is, in fact, he is the descendant, or the grandson rather, of Amir Timur. So he at first, this Ulugh Beg became the governor of Samarkand, and then he was already a scholar, very brilliant. He's a genius mathematician and, astronomer. And then later on, he became the ruler of the entirety of the Timurid dynasty, the Muslim empire in Uzbekistan.
Mhm.
And there was also a lot of fine art. This picture on the right is basically a beautiful Quran, Mushaf, in beautiful paper, done with beautiful sort of calligraphy.
Mhm.
And recently, this beautiful Quran on the right is sold for, guess how much, Patricia?
Perhaps million.
7 million British pounds.
7 million British pound.
Yes, for that Quran
Mm.
manuscript, for that Quran Mushaf, because the scholars who studied this manuscript, they found out that it was made by the rulers of China, Ming Dynasty, as a present to Amir Timur, for the Muslim ruler in Uzbekistan. So it was
Mhm.
done in the best way, with using the most expensive paper, with intricate designs, because China at the time, they had Muslim scholars too. So
Mhm.
the Ming Dynasty ruler wanted to give a a great present to the ruler of Muslims in Uzbekistan. So there's works of art like this, and of course, when we speak of fine art, there is calligraphy, there's carpets, beautiful wood, sort of craft,
Mhm.
so this period of Islam in Uzbekistan contributed a great deal to art, to the history
Mhm.
of art as well, which not many people may know.
Looking at the picture, I can see why it worth million, that 7 million pound. Even the design, I've never looked a Quran that looks like this before.
Exactly, this is perhaps the only one in the world like this.
One in the world.
Yeah,
Very
because it's
beautiful.
so very beautiful. And not only that, many works of art that were produced during that period
Mm-hmm.
is being auctioned in Western countries by, you know, in the West they have many auction sort of companies.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they have possession of all these works of art from Muslims past, so they
Mm-hmm.
started to sell them, and people are paying for hundreds and thousands, sometimes millions, for different kinds of artworks, art pieces,
Mm-hmm.
that was done by Muslims before.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Muslims in Uzbekistan in the past, they also had an Arabic script, just like how we do, like in the Malay world, we had Jawi script, which is actually Malay language, but in Arabic script, but we call it
Mm-hmm.
Jawi.
Jawi.
Similarly, in India, in the Muslims in Uzbekistan before, they had an Arabic script, but it's actually their own language. It's their Turkic, a blend of Turkish, Persian, Arabic language. They have their own
Uh-huh.
language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much so that basically this language that they use, is not Arabic. There are Arabic words, but it's actually their
Mm-hmm.
own language.
So some
So they,
seems like our Jawi.
exactly, very similar to like
Mm-hmm.
Ojawi. Basically, this
Mm-hmm.
is the phenomenon, or the approach of scholars, whoever whenever they spread Islam, this is how they spread Islam. They don't expect all of them to know the Arabic language, because it's difficult to teach them immediately Arabic language. So what they try to
Mm-hmm.
do is introduce the Islamic script slowly, so that would help them understand each other better. At
Mm-hmm.
least certain key important words in the Arabic, in the Quran, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they had this their own script, Arabic script, for their own language, they were able to understand any Muslim speaking in Uyghur today.
Mm-hmm.
Then they would understand any Muslim speaking in Turkey. They would understand Muslims speaking in Kazakhstan. They would understand the Muslim speaking in some parts of Russia today, for example. So it unified hundreds and thousands, if not millions, of Muslims in that region. You see.
Mm.
So, but now also they have changed the script into a Latin script. But this is partly greatly due to the Soviet occupation of Uzbekistan, because in the 20th century, Uzbekistan were under Soviet occupation for about 70 years, right?
Mhm.
So this one was gradually gotten rid of. So that, yeah, but this basically is one of their beautiful heritage of Islam in Uzbekistan.
Is it being used until today, doctor?
Unfortunately, no, because when the
Um.
Soviets came in, they really sort of got rid of all this. They changed the education system, they changed the language. Why? They wanted to influence the Muslims to be closer to the Soviet ideology, the communists. Right? And
Mhm.
communism, they don't want religion.
I see.
So for almost 100 years, they have forgotten this. I have not asked our friends in Uzbekistan how many of them know this, because for
Mhm.
them it's a very ancient language. But I'm sure there's still some experts there who can still understand. Just like today, not maybe not many people know classical Jawi, that earlier Jawi, but
Yes.
there are still
It's not
people who
widely
understand.
used.
It's
Mhm.
not widely used, but it's still possible to be understood, because
Mhm.
you just need to study it with the right scholars. And I think
Mhm.
there's still relevance for things like this, because there's a lot of wisdom, that is still
Mhm.
contained in there, and it also serves a very important unifying function. It can unify
Yes.
Muslims in a huge way, and you can do many good things through that. You can build political unity, you can build intellectual unity, you can achieve many significant things together.
Mhm.
Of course, we're not saying that you don't have to learn English. It's good. Some of them in Uzbekistan, some of our partners, our friends in Uzbekistan, they know Arabic, they know Uzbek, they know Russian, three languages.
Mhm. Three
Some of the
languages.
academics, yeah, some of the
Mhm.
academics in Uzbekistan, they know Arabic, they know Russian because of the Soviet legacy. They learn in school
Yes.
Russian, and they know their
Mhm.
own local language, Uzbek, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Lastly, as I said, there's just so many things that we can talk and share about, uh, in terms of the lessons from Uzbekistan's Islamic legacy. But this particular statement by Amir Timur, that legendary Muslim ruler, Muslim leader in Uzbekistan, it sort of left a deep impression on me, in terms of not only, I mean, this basically is the worldview of the Muslims of the past. They may be imperfect, they may have committed a lot of injustices and errors, but if they're sincere, at some point of their life, they might see what is the truth, and what is it that is the correct thing that they should be doing in their life. So I'm going to read out this quote, this statement by Amir Timur, and then we'll end from there. So Amir Timur said to his princes and his ministers, and this is recorded by Sharafuddin Ali Yazdi in Zafarnama, right? I
Mhm.
believe he's one of the eyewitness living during Amir Timur's time. Amir Timur said, God has favored us with such extraordinary good fortune that we have conquered Asia and overthrown the greatest kings of the earth, which is true. They
Yes.
overthrew they overthrown they overthrew the Ottoman Empire Sultan Bayezid. Famously, he was defeated by Amir Timur. Few sovereigns in past ages have acquired such great dominions, or attained such great authority, or had numerous armies or such command. And as these vast conquests have not been obtained without some violence, so he recognizes there was a lot of violence that he inflicted upon others, which
Mhm.
has caused the destruction of a great number of God's creatures. So he realized that he may have committed wrong there in his military campaigns. So
Mhm.
Amit Timur said, I have resolved to perform some good action which may atone for the crimes of my past life. So he knows that he did some crime there. And to
Mhm.
accomplish that, which no other power in the world can do, that is to make war on China. Because at that time, China, although there were some Muslims in China, It
Mhm.
was considered a non-Muslim state and one of the most powerful non-Muslim state in the world at the time, right? China, Ming
Mhm.
Dynasty.
China.
Not even the Roman Empire was as powerful and as commanding as China. So he felt that maybe because he had a lot of sort of fights with Muslim leaders, maybe it's this time for him to make amends, he needs to fight with a non-Muslim leader. So, but the point is,
Mm.
Patricia, he
Uh-huh.
said that I have resolved to perform some good actions which may atone for the crimes of my past life. So what he meant by that, maybe it's not and not only to make war against China, but also some good things, that that maybe there's some more good things that we did not know about that he
Mm.
did eventually did before he died.
Mm.
And by the way, he didn't attack China. Eventually,
He
he did
didn't.
not attack China. He did not. Why? Because
Uh-huh.
he died on the way. Allah, Allah did not permit him to attack China. but but maybe by virtue of his niyah, his niyat,
Mhm.
Allah will forgive him. We don't know, right? It's not for us to judge.
Yes. Yes.
Because we don't know what people's ending will be towards the end of their life. No matter how bad we think it is, like so many, oh, this guy, he's terrible. He killed this, he did that. But towards the end of their life, we don't know. Allah may change the fate
Yes.
of anyone, right? Just like that. And there are many stories about that from the Prophet,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So I think that's how I would end my sharing for this particular episode, Patricia. I hope that was beneficial and interesting. Hopefully, we can learn more from maybe from our friends in Uzbekistan. If we have the opportunity, we can interview them in the future. If
Yes.
not, inshallah, I intend to do another episode on
Yes,
Uzbekistan.
inshallah. Yes, doctor. It is indeed. Today's episode is very interesting. I learned a lot new things from today's episode. And listeners, if you want to see all the pictures that Dr. Shafiq is talking about, make sure to tune us on our social media on Facebook and also on YouTube to see the pictures. It is indeed all the pictures are very beautiful. And currently, right now, if you're listening to us on the radio, Dr. Shafiq is showing there is statue of Timo, right, Doctor?
Yeah, that's
You
right.
have
Yeah.
see a astonishing statue of him. And also, with that being said, Doctor, thank you for your sharing on today's topic, lessons from Uzbekistan's Islamic legacy. And we hope that today's sharing will be beneficial to those who are listening to us either through radio or even through our social media. And again, Doctor, thank you for being with us. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam warahmatullah.
And dear listeners, don't forget to listen to us next week for more sharing from Dr. Shafiq. And again, stay tuned. Don't change your station. Stay tuned to IKIM Inspirasi Impura Islami.